And good afternoon, racing fans. Welcome to Hawthorne Racecourse for a Thursday afternoon of thoroughbred action. Jim Miller and Emily Gullikson down here at our mezzanine level studio on a nice Thursday here in the Chicagoland area. Temperatures in the 80s, sunny skies. Fast main track, firm turf course today. 9-race card, only 5 scratches on the card, Emily. And we do have some carryovers, including one to kick off the day.
Yeah, starting off the day with the early pick 5 carryover. We knew about that early, kind of mentioned it on the Sunday card, and then we start off with a carryover and end with a carryover and the high 5 as well.
That's right. 3 races on the grass today. The opener is on the turf along with a couple later on, but it's a good quality card today. You have a couple of state bred races that I was very happy to see filled. Good allowance test. All the turf races are actually really solid races. And it's nice to say there's not all that competition that was out there during the course of the summer. So our mutual department will do a little bit of juggling to just avoid some of those afternoon tracks going on right now. And then Churchill starts tonight along with Woodbine. It's going to be interesting to watch a Churchill meet with no turf racing also during the summer.
Yeah, I have a little graphic for tomorrow, the oops, all turf.
Well, exactly. So that's one of those things where it's just one of those.
Or oops, all dirt, I should
all
say.
All dirt, yep,
yeah.
Exactly. All dirt there, but something that it may benefit some of the surrounding tracks for those horses in Kentucky that they were just racing at Kentucky Downs. They're looking for somewhere to run on turf. We got about 6 weeks more of it here, so you may see some of those horses heading our way as we close out the thoroughbred season. All right, 9 races today. Let's jump into the racing action. As we mentioned, carryover in the early pick 5 starts out in race number 1. That carryover $3,753. We go a mile and a 16th in the first. 20,000 claimers and non-winners of 3 lifetime. It's a field of 6. It's a good competitive bunch for the opener, Emily. Rachel Slavinsky's riding the 3 Lawmaker. Right now, Even the Wind sits as the even money choice. I think the horse will be tough, but I think there's multiple horses that can win this race.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's a really tough race to start off. It's all very quality race horses that know how to win. And I think a lot of this comes down to pace as well, especially when you're talking about a horse, Even the Wind, who's had some gate issues at time. That was the case last out where he broke slow, had some trouble at the start, then made that run. They're probably going to want to sit a little bit closer. And Nathaniel's Hope, number 6, the one that we talked about, was able to sneak away on the front end. But I think they'll find some company in here with Julio Felix shifting over to Hey Moon. And then you mentioned Rachel has the mount on Lawmaker. I think they try to be a little bit more assertive. So that definitely helps a horse like Even the Wind. But I think you and I kind of saw it the same. It should also help number 2, Bourbon Life, who should be able to get a trip coming back from that common race on August 22nd.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good effort because that was a race where all choked up walked the dog on the front end. Went out there, opened up the lead, cruised along, backed things down. They got 49 and change, 114 for 3/4, and the race was over. And this was really the only one that was making up even any sort of ground, and it wasn't a whole lot. They were just kind of running evenly through the lane where nobody else was able to pick it up. It is a different pace complexion, even with only 6 in here. It's a really competitive race. I like starting out on the grass, and I think Bourbon Life, if you get right around that 5-2, I think that'll be a fair price in the opener.
I think so too. The other one I'll give a mention to put in the mix is number 1, Storm's Reflection. I thought that one would get a little bit lost on the board. We're seeing that right now at 9-1, but we'll cycle back around and race once.
Yeah, and you get the bug boy Rashawn Blanche in the saddle there, a horse that could show a little bit of speed as well, and at 9-1, not too bad of a price there on Storm's Reflection. Second race on the card, $25,000 claimers in this spot. We go 3/4 of a mile, start the 50-cent early pick 4 here in race 2. From that field of 6, Cortez is the horse that is the horse laid as the 9-5 favorite in here. Facing much tougher company, you drop in class today. I think it's maybe a combination of a confidence boost and just getting a little bit later in the meet. But Blowtorch coming back, you have Wildwood Sicilian returning to Hawthorne. Again, a pretty competitive bunch for the second.
And another race where you really have to look at it from a pace standpoint as well, because there's a few horses that can show that early speed. They're not necessarily super fast on the front end with number 2, Wildwood Sicilian, number 4, Table Money, and even number 6, Mr. Kelly, one that I upgraded second off. I think is going to be fit and without a drop today. Seems like some intent coming right back in just 2 weeks. And that's a scenario that if they do bunch up, they do go fast, definitely helps out Cortez, makes a lot of sense as the morning line favorite, just has to get that trip and then giving up some recency as well.
Yeah, trainer Scott Becker has numerous horses entered on today's card. Something worth keeping an eye on here is from limited starters. He's had himself a very good meet, so definitely moves up a horse like Wildwood Sicilian. But you're right, Mr. Kelly, that was actually a tough field that stuck around in that race that came off the grass in that last out. Novgorod, the Greatsman, good. Star Canoe along with Onasa. So good field there that one comes out of in race number 2. Third race, $50,000 optional claiming allowance runners in here. We scratched the 2, Eli's Promise. That's a big scratch because it removes some of the pace of this race. Probably moves up a horse a little bit like Devil's Tower in the spot. You get the return of Sharp Hero in just the second start out of the year. Winnemac Avenue, shortening in distance. Went West, who's been good here at Hawthorne, and then Navy Seal is a good winner in that last out. So again, no real gimmies here in the third.
Absolutely, and it makes more of a rider's race in here, taking out some of that controlling speed, and Eli's Promise was an upgrade, and for the live barn, it really moved things around and should definitely help out Devil's Tower, especially if some of the others don't go with him early. But again, it can be a rider's race because the other horses in this field aren't that much slower than him to that first call, so they can definitely keep it honest. Number 1, Sharp Hero, is really interesting. She's just such an awesome race mare. I think maybe the scratch helps her. I was a little bit concerned with the rail draw. She hasn't fared as well from the rail in the past, but taking out some of the speed, especially the speed right to her inside, maybe that puts her forward and puts her in the race. She's as game as it gets. I think the horse number 6, Went West, probably becomes the horse to beat, and on the outside is a very favorable draw.
Yeah, and that's a horse that I do expect to go favorite in here. You went over to Presque Isle Downs for that last out, ran a good race. I think they're a little bit better on the conventional dirt surface, but again, you can go a whole lot of different routes. Devil's Tower comes out of that crazy 4-horse placing, all sort of finish there at Fairmount Park, where the horse was tons the best in that race, and won like that, and ended up getting DQ'd and placed last in that spot, but that was a horse that ran a really good race that day. All right, race number 4, Illinois bred maiden allowance runners here. They go 3/4 of a mile. It's a field of 7 to line up. Lally on the outside is the horse that I laid as the 8-5 favorite, went off at 3-5 and just missed at this level in that last out. I think you start there and then kind of work around some others. I thought there was going to be a little bit of pace in this race. How did you see things unfolding in the 4th?
I thought this race was interesting for a couple things. One, we talk about that early pick 5 carryover, and Lally looks like a horse that for many people they could just look and try to single. And when I look at your selections, you didn't even put Lally in the top 3. So from a tactical standpoint, as a horse player, this could be a race where it is worth getting a little bit creative. Now, I think Lally makes for a fit in here. I thought the horse was a downgrade. It was flattered getting that bias when they finished second at 18-1. A little bit flattered off that, but then ran well in the other starts and could be the controlling speed in here. I mean, you're right that there are some horses that could keep the pace honest with number 2, Lion's Law. Maybe Irish Spark can get out of the gate and show a little bit of early speed with the last thrill up there as well. But still, Lally should be tough. But I like the idea of if everybody's going to single to be contrarian in a spot, it can definitely create some opportunities. And there's nothing that says that in a pick 5 you have to just play one ticket and look for one outcome, right? So you can strategize and say, if this happens here, I'm good, and if it doesn't, I got this backup as well that goes against the public.
And the thing about Lally is, if I'd seen first out in that race the second week of May that you were 5-2 or 3-1, and then 5-1, and then constantly taking money, but the first start out the horse was 35-1, and then 18-1, and ran a good race at 18-1. And
with
then
the bias.
Sent off, at 3-1, and didn't run well against Open Company, and then ran better in that last, and now you come in off the layoff. I think there's potential to try to get the upset. The 4 I did the math is the one I run to. Everything revolves around the start for this horse. It's been traditionally a bad gate horse. You need to get out of the gate. Was off slow again in that last out. The 2 starts at Fairmount, 2 and 3 back. If the horse doesn't miss the break, this is a horse that probably runs by everybody each of those days. You pick up David Cohen in the saddle today, so we'll see what we get out of I did the math, but I think you'll get a decent price in the spot because of the presence of a horse like Lally in here. So let's see if we can get a little bit of an upset there in race 4. Race 5 today, 12-5 claimers in here. Fillies and mares 4 and up, non-winners of 3. It's a field of 8 to line up. To me, I thought if I wanted to single anybody in the card, it would have been this race, and that's the 4, Princess Tanko. Just been facing so much tougher and running well in recent starts throughout the course of the meet. But again, you get enough pace to chase, you get Mohica in the saddle. I thought this horse could be a square single on my ticket.
I think so. I think she's the horse to beat in here. Now, my only reservation on a single is not because she's an individual, because she checks all the boxes that you mentioned, but just making that run from off the pace can always give you some pause that you're closing out the leg with a deep closer. You know, if you live for the drama, it's definitely the horse. I think she is the horse to beat in there for everything that you mentioned. The other ones that I would consider using is number 2, Lucy Jane, who maybe ran a good race last out, projected to run a good race that day, and still hasn't run back to a top effort. So maybe just kind of finding her footing, finding her conditions, and comes back in that spot. And then number 5, Cocktail Cutie, back at this on this circuit where she's run competitive in the past.
Yeah, Travis Wales in with a lot of live mounts today as well. He's aboard Cocktail Cutie there in the 5th. 6th race, we go to the turf. 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Couple of scratches. Take out the 3, Dealum and Weep, who's re-entered for Sunday to go 2 turns, and take out the 6, Cali Ray's Kitty. Leaves you with a field of 8 in here. Probably moves up a horse like Life Saga. Probably moves up Georgiani's Mind in this race. But Life Saga, I guess the one we have to start out with. Chris Davis shipping in on the outside here.
Number 10, Life Saga, should be tough in here. Return to the turf, has had competitive form all season long. Looks like there's intent. She showed a lot of run on debut, making a move through traffic, huge gallop out, and I thought got exposed around 2 turns. Is more of a 1-turn type. Finds that here. Is going to come back sprinting. Had a rough start at Ellis, and then validated with the place effort last out at Presque Isle. I think Life Saga makes a lot of sense. I think her job gets easier with Dealham and Wheat scratching out.
Yep.
The other Chris Block stays in, though, the first-time starter, Cairo's Dream, and one that we'll be able to get a look at. And I've just kind of noticed, you know, especially the last 2 years that I've been here a little bit closer, and then having you up here to just kind of, you know, bring me up to speed on Illinois racing a little bit closer. They've just been touting themselves in the paddock. Yeah. And the board will give some clues as well, but just as individuals, you can just see the readiness, what they want to do from a size standpoint, physicality. The barn always brings them out live. Cairo Dream worked 10 and 1 at the March sale, but was still growing, so I don't mind the later start.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things happen. That horse staying in flatters that horse. Dealham and Weep definitely flatters that horse around 2 turns Sunday. So you can learn a lot from a couple of moves here. Giorgiani's Mind is a horse that I think can go out there and show a little bit of speed. And we've seen this firm turf course kind of hold speed, and we haven't had rain in a couple of weeks now. So I do think you're going to be forwardly placed. You have a first-timer to the inside, which leaves some question marks, but Julio Felix has ridden this course so very well, and I'm going to give a shot there to Giorgiani's Mind. Probably lose a little bit of price there with Dealham and Weep out, but still maybe you get somewhere around 4 to 1 in race 6. Race 7, Illinois bred allowance runners in here. Take out the 2, that's Air Jerry. Leaves you with a field of 8 to line up. Devil from the barn of Michelle Boyce is a horse that's probably overdue for that second career victory. Michelle Boyce has been very good all meet long. Another good weekend again last weekend. I think Devil probably sitting on a big race today.
Yeah, after 3 wins on the Sunday card, it's really tough to deny anything from this barn, especially when they send out live runners, and with 2 in here. Devil from the rail, I think Trip is going to be just that one hurdle, but you're right. I mean, checks every box otherwise. Just going to have to work a Trip. And if there is some contention up front, especially if Devil has to go from the inside, I think that does help number 4, Rembrandt, to just sit right off the pace. She got that Trip back at the debutante, pulling off the upset over Devil on the day. Maybe finds a similar setup here. But I think both those horses are going to be tough. I threw Miss Miko's in the mix as well, just respectability, but I think Michelle Boyce got to follow that hot trend right now.
Yeah, Miss Miko's definitely merits a look too. I would have liked to have seen a start since that victory back on June the 1st. So a little bit of time away from the track was the one thing that concerned me. Lost Sunset steps up, but steps up off a couple of good victories. With this, a pretty significant step up in class, and I'm with you. I think Devil's going to be very tough there in the 7th. Race number 8 today, $20,000 claimers in here. This is a good field. There's a lot of classy horses in this race that are kind of dropping in for the tag, but again, a little bit later in the turf season, you have some older runners in here, and I'm talking about horses like Salem Solo, the 9-year-old, Silver Quarters, the 8-year-old, and even Battle Scars, the 6-year-old here. Older horses that have done their share of running, have beaten better. They're in for 20 today, although you get horses like Silver Quarters, who's running for the 30, being an Illinois bred, but it makes it a good competitive race.
And all those 3 make sense. Sailing Solo should be able to work their Trip up front. You mentioned how speed's been on the turf. Battle Scars could have that class edge, just giving up some recency, but kind of a clever move because going into, as soon as this meet ends, maybe gives them some starter options to run at. And Silver Quarters ran so huge last out. That effort was incredible. He made that move against the flow, really didn't have any chance in running. It played completely against him, and he still ran huge. That's hard to ignore. I don't know if this race necessarily sets up for him, but last time it didn't either, and he still ran big. The one I'd give a look to at a price is number 1, Niles Channel. Going back to Canterbury 2 back, that July 3rd race had a complete excuse where he just went right to the nose and knees at the start and was in hand from off the pace, and then ran a good effort. I'd say that race par last out for 10 is pretty close to today, even though this is a salty group.
We both gave Niles Channel a look, I know, on that last out, and he ran a solid race. Tanner Tracy looking for turf. When you're stabled at Prairie Meadows, you got to find turf for some of these horses. There was a couple of Canterbury and then coming over here. Inside draw, I don't mind. The rail's usually pretty good in the turf when it's all the way out here at 20 feet. Chris Amy, a solid rider there, and you will get a price because of the presence of some of the other runners there in race number 8. In the finale here, scratch the 3, that's Quilting Party. Leaves with a field of 7 to go a mile, 70 yards, $5,000 claimers in this spot. Galib's Ranger coming from the barn of Scott Becker gets Travis Wales in the saddle. I think they're maybe looking for a little bit of a confidence boost. Then you get a horse like Emitaz, who was entered on Sunday, scratched out of that spot for this race. Maybe a little bit of a key move. You probably lose a little bit of a price with Quilting Party out, but those are a couple of horses I was kind of looking around here in the last.
I went the same way. Galib's Ranger had some question marks for me, so I was leaning a little bit heavy on Emitaz, but with the scratch at Quilting Party, I'd want one more horse than Emita. She's not the most reliable.
Right.
So Galib's Ranger, and you mentioned Scott Becker bringing in a few, should get right in the mix. I might even upgrade Jocelyn a little bit just because Joel Campbell's sending out some live runners. She's had some subtle trips and has some early speed as well.
A little bit of back class too. Earlier on the meet, this was a horse that was running okay. Might be able to turn that form around too. So would not surprise me by any means either. All right, that's how we see the 9 races today. We're going to flip back to the opener. Take a look at the field for the first. As in race 1, we offer win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta, double, pick 3, place pick 8, and the start of the 50-cent early pick 5, carry over in the pick 5, $3,753. Emily in the first. We go a mile and a 16th on the firm turf course. It's a field of 6 to line up in race number 1, and right now the 4, Even the Win, sits as your even money favorite.
And pretty expected given the connections, given the good effort last out, given the backing all season long, and Even the Win can probably sit a little bit closer today. He was unable to do so, broke slow, had trouble at the start, made a wide move with that 3rd place finish last out. Today's a similar race par where he didn't run a really strong speed figure on the day, can definitely improve off that. The number going 2 back to July 21st definitely stacks him on par when he dominated that non-winners at 2 at 20,000.
I can tell you there's definitely not a place pick 8 carryover because the place pick 8 gets paid every day. So it's a early pick 5 carryover that will
just
pop
trying
up
to
in
make
a
sure
second.
we're all paying attention.
It was just a different graphic. They were just keeping us on our toes. The early pick 5
Exactly.
carryover, $3,753 as my pen just went flying at me. But yeah, Even the Wind is a horse that, again, the race 2 back was a pretty solid effort there. The last out kind of chased, but again, that was that race. We're all choked up. Walked the dog out there on the front end.
He had trouble at the start.
Yeah,
Against the race flow. Yeah.
The horse can be there. I don't know about even money. I think you can look to a couple of others here and trying to find a little bit of value. That's what you're seeing with Even the Win. The horse should be there late, but let's look to some others, see if we can get a little bit better price. So one of them maybe is the 2. That's Bourbon Life. Bourbon Life from the barn of Antonio Miraz. Alexis Centeno getting the call today. This one comes out of that same race with all choked up in that last out. A little bit more late kick. This was a horse that actually ran by some of these others in the lane, was able to run by Even the Win being one of those, and Bourbon Life at that 5 to 2 price.
I like Bourbon Life in here. I think he makes a lot of sense. He's another one that can sit a little bit closer to the pace if needed. Centeno taking over today has been aboard in the past. Now, those 2 races with Centeno aboard, he did come from off the pace, but could find just a different race shape in here. Again, good effort, was wide, against the flow, closed ground, and even his races this season, he's been a 3-year-old facing some older horses in the first part of the year, holding his own and running in company with his stablemate. He's just been quality. I can't find a bad race from this horse all season long. He gets another look right back.
Yeah, he makes a good impression there in the paddock too as well. I definitely wouldn't toss out his chances either at that 5 to 2 price. Now the 5 horse here is Hey Moon. Hey Moon picks up Julio Felix today for trainer Mike Rivas. Hey Moon pulled off a really nice race at 31 to 1 in that start back on June the 30th. After that has run a couple of respectable races on the turf for the new connections here. I'm going to be curious to see if this is a horse that maybe tries to push things along a little bit early on.
I think that's the plan. The rider change and no fault from the prior riders. I think it was just in tough and timing maybe not as ideal. Julio Felix rides this turf course very well. Hey Moon made a very positive appearance last out. He looks good today, comes back in 3 weeks. I think the added ground plus the complexion of this field, they're going to try to push the pace, and the other speed is right on their outside, so that could help them just kind of go and get involved early, at least keep things honest for Nathaniel's Hope, another one that's had a perfect trip along with Hey Moon when he pulled off that upset that you mentioned back on June 30th.
Yeah, and the 6th Nathaniel's Hope right now currently sitting at that 10 to 1 price. That's an interesting price on a horse that did run a good race in that last out. Took a little bit of action in that spot after really not showing a whole lot earlier on in the meet, but went off at 8 to 1 in their forwardly placed, ran away late. Pick up Luis Colon today, but at 10 to 1, I think this is one of those horses being dismissed a little bit.
He could be, and there is a scenario where he is allowed to just go out there and lope again on the front end and then would be complete value as we come back and talk about the race and say he snuck away at 10 to 1. I guess the bigger concern here is this is a step up in class. It's a higher race par. He was improving his numbers, but you have to wonder if he did peak in those 2 most recent starts, he might not be as fast as some of the others in this field.
Yeah, and that's something that you definitely have to watch out for. Now, the 1 horse, Storm's Reflection, maybe poses a little bit of a pace threat in here. This is a horse that start 2 back chased at Canterbury, then was able to run on light beat 3/4 of a length. Earlier on in the meet, showed some speed in some races around 2 turns here at Hawthorne. You do get the inside, you get a firm turf. I'll be curious to see what Storm's Reflection decides to do.
And that's why I kept Storm's Reflection in the mix, because he has that versatility. I do think he is a little bit better off the pace. Going back and watching that race at Canterbury Park on August 11, that was a huge effort. He broke slow. He made this huge burst that you're watching and running, and you're like, oh my God, this horse is going to win by just a matter of how much. And then kind of flattened out a little bit after making that big move. He's another one that made a really strong move in that August 29th race, a race taken off the turf where he had no pace to make a move into. I think he's going to improve, and he's offering value 9-1.
Yeah, 50-cent early pick 5 carry over 3,753 as they head out for the opener. Good luck.
Coming on the track for today's first race here at Hawthorne, they'll go a mile and 1/16 on a firm turf course with the rails set at 20 feet out. Field of 6, jockey change 3, Lawmaker, make the jockey Rachel Slavinsky. The weight's okay. There are no overweights in the first. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta starts the rolling daily doubles, rolling pick 3s. The $1 place pick 8 and the 50-cent early pick 5. That early pick 5 carry over $3,753. Parading, here they are. 1, Storm's Reflection, Rashawn Blanche riding. 2 is Bourbon Life with Alexi Centeno aboard. Number 3, Lawmaker. Note the jockey change. Rachel Slavinsky to ride number 3. 4 is Even the Wind. Orlando Mojica riding. 5, Hey Moon. Julio Felix. And number 6, Nathaniel's Hope. Luis Colon will bring him to the gate, and they'll all be there in about 3 minutes to kick off the Thursday program. Another reminder, early pick 5 carry over $3,753. Racing fans, little time remains for the wager on today's first race here at Hawthorne, which features rolling doubles, rolling pick threes, the $1 place pick 8 wager, and the 50-cent early pick 5. The early pick 5, one of 2 carryover pools today. $3,753 in the early pick 5 carryover. We do have a high 5 carryover pool on the 9th race today of $2,299. We have a fast dirt track today. The turf is firm with the rails set at 20 feet out on the turf course. Those conditions will be throughout the day, as we have another pleasant day here in the Chicagoland area weather-wise. We do thank you for joining us, whoever may be across the betting network. We are close to starting time for race 1 today here at Hawthorne. Moving towards the gate, less than a minute here at Hawthorne. Racing fans are at the starting gate for race 1. Final call for your selections, including that early pick 5 with that carryover $3,753. Horses moving on to the turf course, and horses are entering the starting gate for race 1 here at Hawthorne. Last 2 to go in will be Lawmaker and Nathaniel's Hope. Waiting now for Nathaniel's Hope. He's in, they're on the gate. They're off. Lawmaker missed the break, spotted the field a few lengths. Nathaniel's Hope trying for the lead on the inside. Bourbon Life came away well. Even the win between those two now settles in third. Hey Moon alongside, moving up now third. Even the Wind is back to fourth. Lawmaker is hustled up into fifth. In Storm's Reflection is the early trailer. A 6-pack of runners make their way around the first turn over a firm turf course today. They are being led by Nathaniel's Hope. And on to the backstretch, the opening quarter, 23.73. Nathaniel's Hope leads him up the backstretch, 2 in front of Hey Moon second. And then on the inside, Bourbon Life is third. Alongside that one, fourth. Lawmaker continues to move up. Shuffled back to fifth, Even the Wind. Storm's Reflection sixth, about 7 lengths behind this long-time leader. And on the backstretch, they still race. Nathaniel's Hope in command. Hey Moon right there second. Lawmaker out there third. Bourbon Life is fourth. Inside, Even the Wind begins to look for Racer while moving up on the rail. And Storm's Reflection trails as they move around the far turn. Not much change in position. It's still Nathaniel's Hope holding firm. On the outside, Hey Moon still in second. Now Even the Wind has moved up in the third. Lawmaker having the toughness of the trip take its toll. Storm's Reflection, no place to go, and swinging wide for the stretch run, Bourbon Life. They come off the turn and straighten away. On the inside, starting to gain ground, even the win coming after Nathaniel's Hope. Here's Bourbon Life out in the center, and then Storm's Reflection followed up by Hey Moon. They're in deep stretch, and Bourbon Life moving up on the far outside. Even the win on the inside. It's down to these two. Bourbon Life has the lead. Even the win was second. Nathaniel's Hope finished third. Storm's Reflection. In today's first race, 2 Bourbon Life finished first. 4 Even the Win was second. 6 Nathaniel's Hope third. 1 Storm's Reflection fourth. 2461 is posted. It's unofficial. 143.99 the running time. Returning the unofficial winner, 2 Bourbon Life. Bourbon Life owned by Arcilio Barraza and Azul Gonzalez. Antonio Mirage trains Alexis Centeno, the winning rider. Today's first race is official. Running time 143.99. It's official. Prices in a moment. The $1 exacta 2-4, $5.10. 50-cent trifecta 2-4-6, $12.85. 20-cent superfecta 2-4-6-1, $12.42. Today's second race has no changes. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta. It starts another daily double, another pick 3. Today's 50-cent early pick 4. Here are the changes in the early pick 4 races. No jockey changes, scratch, or overweights. No changes in the second. Third race, scratch. 2 Eli's Promise, scratch 2 Eli's Promise. We have a program note on 1 Sharp Hero.